Okay, we're now live. Hi, Elliot Fishman here. And today's October 31st, which is the title of our talk, October 31st, 2024. There's nothing specifically special about this. I guess maybe one could argue. It's the last Halloween before the presidential election. Is it the last Thursday? Yeah, it's the last Thursday before the election, which is next Tuesday. I won't say who to vote for. I don't know who to vote for, but I will say vote. That's your right as a citizen. It's Halloween. There's the counting away. Okay, let me see, going this way and that way. But it's interesting. Halloween. When I was a kid in New York, we lived in high-rise, low-income housing, so you can do a lot of trick-or-treating. No one had anything to give you, but you'd go up and down the stairs because we lived in 20-story buildings, and there were 16 apartments on a floor, so there'd be millions of people roaming the place. Now, I live in the burbs, and we have a long driveway, so no one, I think, in all the years I've lived there, which is probably almost 30 years, I think we've had like 3 trick-or-treaters maybe the first year. We used to leave out candy if anyone came by, but then the deer would eat all the candy. So we will probably never get a trick-or-treater. I think people who live in the area who have kids go to areas that are a little bit more compact, where there's townhouses or apartments or I don't know what else. But no trick-or-treating, I think. Uh, but Halloween has become like a major holiday. I guess there's no downside. I mean, you get a lot of candy. I'm not sure what the. I think I read that the Reese's Pieces or Reese's Cups are the most popular candy for trick or treating, but that's very dependent on where you live. I used to like the Reese's Cups, but I don't think I'm not that big a fan. I'll go with M&M's. Plain prefer peanut, but whatever. Other than that, we got in October 30th is yesterday our RSNA exhibits. That was the final day for submitting them, so the guys did a great job doing that. RSNA is in a month. How many people are going to RSNA? Probably a reasonable number, not as many as used to go. RSNA has a challenge. It's a great meeting, but it's not the meeting it was pre-COVID. Even pre-COVID, it was going down a bit because, with vendors being a big part of RSNA, which was great, it was critical in the old days when you bought a scanner for your hospital. But now everybody's part of a big hospital chain, and some bureaucrat is buying the scanners, not even asking you what to do. And so you're not going to look at new scanners if you can't get them. So that becomes a big challenge. The challenge for the vendors, the Siemens, the GE, the Philips, Canons, because the meeting's very expensive to them, takes a lot of effort, a lot of time. But if no one's going to be looking, and if the people who are looking aren't that important, if you're not making a decision, it's like me going into a Lamborghini place. I guess I could buy a Lamborghini, but I'm not going to be buying a Lamborghini. So the salesman probably doesn't want to speak to you, right? They want to speak to people who are going to buy that Lamborghini. Who can blame them? And I think that's what RSNA is suffering from a little bit. Also, AI has become bigger and bigger. That might help, you could think, RSNA, except there are more meetings. There was a massive meeting last week called Health, HLTH. There's many different meetings now that are focusing on the AI and the chat GPT and everything else aspects of healthcare. And since it's not just radiology, but it's pathology and medicine and every other part, presenting in a radiology meeting only probably is meaningless because hospitals are buying systems. It's not radiologists. And so there are some things, AI doc sells, PE detection, brain bleed detection. You're focusing more on the radiologists perhaps, so it's very important to RSNA. But for a lot of the bigger vendors, it just doesn't matter. If you're NVIDIA, you probably speak to everybody, but no one is sitting at the RSNA going and buying NVIDIA chips. They may buy scanners with NVIDIA chips embedded. They may know about NVIDIA. They may own stock at NVIDIA, and they may think great things about NVIDIA, but NVIDIA is not going to make money at the RSNA per se. Same thing, maybe a little bit less true with Microsoft. Same thing is true with Google. So at the big meetings, you're seeing the Googles, the Microsofts, the AI companies, the ChatGPT companies, but RSNA really is sort of old school. And more people are being overwhelmed by the clinical work, so they're not presenting at RSNA. It used to be a badge of honor. You'd be talking about it for weeks and weeks. Now no one even mentions it. I was at a meeting in San Diego. We were talking about RSNA, and people said, "Well, I'd rather go to Savvy or GI Society." Any meetings that where it's smaller, where you know people. A lot of people just really don't like those big meetings, and particularly just roaming back and forth through McCormick Place. It's just not. It's not what it was. And I'm a big fan of RSNA. I donate to RSNA. I like to say, and RSNA has been very nice to me in my career. And I think RSNA is very important for all of us, publisher of radiology and other key journals, including the AI journal. But I think it started pre-COVID, but post-COVID it's accelerated that radiology, RSNA, needs to redefine itself and think about where it's going to be 20 years from now. I know they're trying to do that. It's very hard because their model was very, very successful, but that model is changing. And I think if they don't change with the model, they're going to have significant problems. Now, what does that have to do with Halloween? Well, I'll tell you what it has to do with Halloween. Halloween is a dumb holiday, but there's no negatives. Everybody eat candy. Kids collect the candy, then the parents throw it away, okay? Because you don't want the kids to get sick. And when I was a kid, they talked more about don't take an apple, someone could put a needle in it or a razor blade or whatever. None of those things are really what people speak about, but it's fun. Kids dress up in costumes more now than ever, particularly little kids. So everyone, it's a benign holiday, right? But it also makes the point that people like to be engaged. I think in this era, and when I was at the San Diego meeting, people were speaking about this, that a lot of the hospitals, the departments just aren't engaged. People come to work and they leave from work. They're not like, nothing's ever been perfect, but more now than ever, it's just a place to pick up a paycheck and to work, which is why people want to work from home more than they want to be in person. I think that hospitals and outpatient centers and any part of medicine, in radiology and outside of radiology, really needs to rethink how they're doing business. If people rather stay home, it says a lot about the environment. I know there's certain advantages to being home, particularly people with young kids. Can't argue about that. But people want to be home because there is no value seen in being at work. And I think that's what needs to be done. We're in the era of lots of administrators dictating what radiologists and surgeons and oncologists and pediatricians should be doing. Even though they know very little about the job, it's like the world turned backwards, upside down. The world's rotating backwards on its axis. Physicians need to be getting control of medicine and bringing back the joy in medicine. I think that's a big problem. There was an article we published with Ed Cadmill and Jensen Wong on leadership in JACR a couple weeks ago that makes the point that it's the environment, it's the culture that makes people happy. It's the culture that makes people successful. It's the culture that drives you to do only your best. And it's the culture that makes you do even better than what you would have considered your best. But if administrators are running the thing and we need 10 radiologists, 9 surgeons, 14 pediatricians, 8 psychiatrists, on and on and on, when you have that attitude, then people will come in and do their job. They will do it at a minimum level. They will, just do it because they're getting paid and people have some pride and we're taking care of patients. But they're not going to do the excellence. They're not going to do the discovery. They're not going to be thinking differently. So I would think on Halloween, the one thing we need to do, Halloween is a day where everything is kind of funny. People are dressed like characters and everything is funny, and people give you candy when you knock on the door. Tomorrow, don't knock on the door unless you want to be shot or something. And tomorrow, don't get dressed up like Mr. Spock or anybody, or any of the Mutant Ninja Turtles, or Bluey and his friends, don't do that tomorrow. You can do that today. There's a time and a place for everything. And today the time is to have a little bit of fun. But I will tell you that it'll be good if you had fun tomorrow as well, and the day after, and the day after. If you want to do your best, if institutions want to be leaders and lead with your people, take care of the people, make them know of their value, and then create an environment where people can thrive, where people can be successful. So with that, I wish you all a happy Thanksgiving. I wish you great luck trick-or-treating. I hope your costume from last year fits, or get a new costume. And with that, have a great day, everybody.